Hi, my name is Cindy and I'm from Pins and Needles, and I'm here today to teach you how to make marigolds out of tissue, or also known as cempasúchiles, flor de cempasúchil. So I just wanted to teach you how to make these so that if you can't get marigolds, fresh ones, we can make tissue ones to adorn your altars. And before we start, I just wanted to go over the word cempasúchil and what it means. It is a Nahuatl or Aztec word, cempohuali meaning 20, and xochitl meaning flower. So together makes the word cempasúchil. There are multiple beliefs as to why marigolds are used or are very important for Day of the Dead. One being the smell and the color of the flowers attracts the souls to the altar. There are multiple colors for marigolds and other flowers that are placed on altars to adorn them. And basically you want to entice the spirits, your family members, to your altar. It is also believed that these flowers have the ability to keep the heat of the sun in its petals, which I think is a beautiful thought. The yellow color of the marigold also represents the sun, and when watered, it forms a path. And the color paints a way for the dead to recognize their family and in their offerings. So there's also a very popular legend about Xochitl and Huitzilin. It's a tale of them. They loved each other very much, and they would go up to the mountain every afternoon to give an offering to Tonatio, El Padre Sol, and also swearing to him that they would love each other beyond the death. One day, war came, and Xochitl got word, though they parted, and Xochitl got word that Huitzilin had died in the war. Broken-hearted, she went up to the mountaintop to ask Tonatio to unite her with him forever. And with one ray, he turned her into a flower. And as soon as she turned into that flower, Huitzilin came back in the shape of a hummingbird. He perched himself in the center of the marigold, and as soon as he did that, the flower opened up into 20 petals, and soon it became known as the marigold. It's the flower of the dead. So these are some of the reasons this iconic flower is so important for Day of the Dead. This flower cannot be omitted from the altar. It is very important as much as the food offerings, pan de muerto, the sugar skulls. So it is a very important flower that represents this holiday. So let's get started. And I think that because if we can't afford to buy or don't want to buy the marigolds, the beauty of this is that we're making them, and so you can think of a loved one that has passed every time you create a flower. So I think that's beautiful too. So I hope you enjoy this little tutorial. Let's get started. Okay, so I have two different styles of marigolds. There's a round one, so it's completely round. So there's this one that I want to show you. And then we also have one that has more of a flat back that you can make a garland with. And then there's one that's slightly larger. It just depends on how much you trim down. And then you can make bouquets. You can make them all orange marigolds or all of the yellow. And this is also really fun. You can make crowns with these also. Okay, so what we need is tissue paper in the colors the orange and the yellow. And if you have a measuring tape, that's great. If you don't, it's okay. We can figure out how to measure these pieces out. I use floral tape because it's nice to wrap the stems and to also wrap these together. And then also, and I think the 99-cent stores have these, so the floral tape and floral wire. And this wire is a little bit thinner. It's not as thick as the stems that you could get at like other stores. But we could just bend them together and make it a little bit thicker. Also twine or any kind of cording that you would like to tie on your flowers. And it depends also if you make the circular ones or if you make the flat back ones. The circular ones take a little bit more tissue. So if you're kind of low in the colors, you could go with the flat back because they take way less. And then a needle and thread if you will be making this style. So that's another option. So let's get started. So the circular ones, take 20 sheets of tissue paper. So what you do is just get your tissue. I folded it so there's 20 sheets. And in this pack, there's 8 total. So then once you fold them, you get 20 sheets altogether for the yellow, and then in the orange, it's the same. So it doesn't make that many for one of these bags of tissue. It actually only makes 12. So then what you do is you take a tape or any size that you want to make this marigold. As you can see, this one's slightly larger than this one, and this is, I use the outside of the tape, and then the smaller ones I use the inside of the tape to make the circles. So what you're gonna do is just trace depending on which size you want, and then with a stapler. So that's another thing, if you don't have a stapler, you do need one for this particular marigold. You basically just staple the center, and that's it. So once you're done with that, and you can staple 3 at a time, and then cut, and then staple the next, and then it's just harder to do it. You can't do the center one with the stapler here. So what you're gonna do is just cut it out. So I'm just gonna roughly cut this one out. So then you just trace along the pencil line, and I just tried to get just slightly underneath the pencil line so that you don't see it, because it is kind of obvious if you don't trim that piece off or the pencil line. So then you just continue cutting. Okay, clear out my space here. So now you have a little circle with 20 sheets of tissue, and just kind of clip around. It doesn't have to be even. It's just to create the texture of the flower. So you just go around. Okay, and I have a little bowl of water handy just to get like the tissue to pick it up, because it can be a little grippy. So then we don't need that now, but scrunch it up to the center, and then keep going, and make it as tight as you can. So just keep bringing that up, and it's 20 layers of tissue, and you'll see how much easier the next one is. Keep going. So like I said earlier, thinking about our loved ones. So, you know, who does this flower, just kind of like, you know, if you celebrate Christmas, an ornament can mean or represent a family member. Maybe a marigold can represent a family member, and you're thinking of them like, this was my Aunt Virgie, or you know. So it's a happy thing also to think about your past family. All right, so we've gotten to the end, and we've got this scrunched up little piece of paper. So what we're gonna do now is open it up, just like in the tale, in that legend that we just talked about earlier. And see, even half of it looks beautiful. So you could keep it like that, but you could keep going, and then you create that nice round marigold shape that can go on the garland. And the reason why this one looks different from this other one over here is because the marigold on this side, it has more of a flat bottom. It's kind of like a regular flower. Not all flowers, I think there's only a couple that I've seen, are completely almost round. So you could just keep playing with that, and then you could scrunch up the inside of the bottom part, and then keep it going. So you have more of a round shape. So that's when your needle and thread play a part here if you are making the round marigold garland. And the reason why I'm using a thinner thread is because it is paper. If you use a very thick thread, you might just tear it. So you can cut the length, or you can cut only in sections because the thread has that tendency to tangle up. So all you would do is in the center of your marigold, just drag that needle through, and just being careful when you're pulling it through, you don't want to tear it. And so you start with your first one, okay? So then you can just go and add an orange or continue with all yellow. That's completely up to you. And then if you run out of thread because you only did a shorter length, you just tie a knot with the existing thread from here to a new piece, and then you could just keep feeding it through, just making sure it's kind of close enough to the flower so you don't have a gap. All right, so there's that one. Now we're going to go to, I think is my favorite, the flat one. So what you're going to do is just take your paper, this is already pre-cut, just take your paper and you're going to fold it in half. And then you cut that on the line. So you could just kind of go across there. Doesn't have to be super perfect because you are trimming. All right, and then take half of what you cut and cut that in half too. Then you're going to cut that. And cut along. Then you fold in half one more time, or it's going to be two more times actually. So then we cut this, and then we cut again. So then you're left with squares like this. So you'll get quite a few flowers from here. So from this little pile you get 4, and it's only 16 pieces of paper. So with only 4 pieces, you're going to fold it accordion style. So then you just back and forth, kind of like a fan, which it looks like that. So then you just keep doing that to the end. And the finer, or the smaller the fold, the more rippling you're going to get in your flower. All right, so once that's done, you can use a stapler to staple the center, but I am using the floral tape because I'm gonna show you how to do the bouquet one first. So I use this because it kind of looks like, I don't know if you can see, it just looks like the back of a flower with the green. So at the center of the paper that's been folded accordion way, you're going to wrap your tape around. And now this tape isn't like regular tape, it's waxy, and you stretch it and then you stick it is how it works. So then we get that stuck there. So I have another one right here. So we have an orange and yellow. So what you do is, now this is the time you could decide how big you want your flower. So as you can see, this one's pretty much like very big in comparison to this garland that's going to be made. I don't know if you can see how small that little flower is, and then the size of this one. So it's just a little bit of a difference. So we're gonna do 2 different sizes here. I'm gonna do the larger one in the yellow, so it's a little bit more obvious. And when I'm cutting the edges to create that texture, I just kind of cut like this. So you just kind of, it's kind of jaggedy, it's not perfect. And then you do the same on the other side. All right, and this one I'm going to make just a tiny bit smaller. Go like that. And then just trying to make them even, because if you don't make them even, you'll notice it on the flower, one side will be higher than the other side. So then you just kind of check, it's pretty even. So you open it up like the fan, and then you peel again one sheet at a time. And all you're doing is bringing it to the center. And then you just go to the next side, open it up. Again, it's sticky, so pull it to the center. And then you just keep going around. Then you could grab the back and then just pull the last ones up. And see, it was just a tiny bit off. There's a little pull up there. So you could just kind of wiggle that out, okay? So the wire, I was cutting 24 inches. So it's 2 feet, roughly that. It just depends on how long you want your stem to be. So if you don't want it this long, then you could cut it a little shorter. So what I did is just folded it in half. And then took my wire and just fed it through. You could do this before if you want, so that would be easier. And the next one I'll do it like that. Bring it down, and then what you're going to do, so you have it doubled up. Now there's like 4 wires here. You're going to twist. Twisting tight enough in the back so that the flower doesn't wobble around, and then you just keep twisting all the way down. If you have pliers, if this hurts your hands, you could get pliers and then you just spin it and it'll twist. This wire is pretty thin, so it's flexible. All right, so you twist it as best as you can. Then you take your tape and grab the back of your flower, and you're just gonna wrap it and pull at the same time. Oop, not that hard. And you'll see that the wire, the tape slides down the wire. Just push it back up to the back of the flower, and now you're just gonna keep twisting it all the way down. And so now it just looks like a marigold on a stem. So there we go. Once you get to the end, just clip that off, and then pull it and wrap it around the stem to hopefully it sticks. And then you have one flower here. So now I'm just gonna open this one up. I don't necessarily need to make this one again, but I just wanna show you the difference in the size. And also doing the wire this way instead. All right, so we're gonna say that's the right amount. So then we could just fold it in half. Might be a little long, but we can always clip in the end. The only part is you don't want to be wasteful. So, all right, so then you could just fold it in half. So get it as close again as you can as you were to this flower. And then you're gonna twist. And then from here you could do the same thing. You twist down. All the way as far as you can. And then you're gonna do the same thing. So you're fanning it and then pulling it up to the center. So this one does look a little bit smaller. Alrighty, so we're now to here. And now we're on the last one to bring those up. And there you go. So you can see the two different sizes on that. I think I prefer the smaller one, but that's me. Okay, so then once you wrap each individually with the floral tape, or you could just wait and not wrap individually. I just like the look because it looks more floral-like, or like a real flower. You could just gather them and then wrap it with the floral tape. All right, so that's for the bouquet. Now we are going to go over the marigold garland in the flat back style instead of the round. And as you can see, 4 sheets will create 1 flower, whereas this is 20 and you get only 12 per yellow and 12 per orange if you buy a packet like this. So it's a little bit more cost effective. And so what we're gonna do, again, I have the smaller one already ready to go. But instead of putting the floral tape on it, I just tied some of the twine onto the center of the tissue, and then I cut it already a little bit smaller. So I'm just going to show you what it looks like when I open it up, and then we're going to tie it onto the, if it tears, that's okay. It's going to get lost in the center of the flower. So you just go around again. If it gets sticky, that's why I have my little bowl of water. Alright, and we're almost at the end here. Alright, so now I just grab my little string here, and then I just bring it up. So, as you can see, it's a little uneven, so you could just jaggedy cut. Alright, so that's one. Now I'm going to make it one more time from scratch and then tie one of these strings on, and then we're going to tie both of them onto the garland. Alright, so here we go again, accordion style or fan. Alright, so now I have my paper folder. I just take a long enough piece to tie the center, and then long enough also so that this is tied and then it's tying to the garland. And then again, the center of the tissue. Tied it nice and tight. It's okay if it crinkles up a little bit. And then we will now trim, depending on how big you want your flower. Going back again, these two different sizes. So I'm going to make a little one to add to that one. So I trimmed off about 1/2 inch, and then cutting it a little jagged, making sure it's pretty centered, and then start opening it up. like individually onto the garland, it's easy to slide it down and fill in the holes so you don't see the backs of the flower. So then we'll add this one. You could tie it up here, it's going to slide down anyway. And I tie it about 3 times. It depends on what kind of twine you're using. This one's a little slippery, so I tie it 3 times. Just clip a little bit off of the end there. And then now we slide it down and it fills in another spot. So it's nice, it's a very nice and full garland in comparison to this individual one. Alrighty, so I think that is all. The large one, you would just do the same, and it's actually the same size tissue, so that's great. All you do is just trim the edges a little bit in the little like jaggedy, so it gets that nice little shape. And it's a very nice full garland that would be really pretty to decorate around the top of your altar. So that's it, and thank you for joining me today, and I hope you enjoy making these marigolds and thinking about your loved ones. Bye.